Guys, welcome back. Welcome back to a brand new edition of Full Time Reds. I've been away. Apologies. I was in Riyadh last week watching Ronaldo and the AJ boxing. So I didn't do a podcast last week, but this week I'm back. Thank you for everyone that's going to tune in, that's going to watch. I'm very excited to have a very good friend of mine, Mick Ruby, for MUFC Realist TV. Mick, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Just came off hot from the press covering the Ten Hag's
Yes, we're going to
live
cover
press
that. We're going to
conference.
cover that. We are indeed. In this week's
Yeah,
episode, guys, we're going to cover the manager's press conference, the injuries, who's to blame for these injuries because they keep on increasing, even though we've had some positive news, which Mick will cover. We're going to look at the stadium plans and the misinformation out there regarding who's actually funding what. Ten Hag, and will he be here in the summer? And we'll probably end up on the match, the Liverpool match preview, which is on the weekend from the FA Cup. If you've not subscribed, if you've not followed, please do that. We're nearly hitting the 1,000 mark on YouTube, which is a big achievement for us. So let's get started. Mick, you've just covered the press conference on your own channel. What's your thoughts around what Ten Hag has said?
well, this is the big one, and of course, exciting as you looking for good questions. There are some vouchers out there. They are masking the questions, like trying to play hangman. You know what I mean? The game hangman, right? Trying to sort of put him on the sword, but he looked very confident. There was questions about his squad, his injuries, and he's pretty much said, like, what did you expect? Like, go toe to toe against City, impossible. But this is FA Cup, and we are playing on our home turf, and we do expect the crowd to get behind us to be the 12th player on the pitch, and 100% correct. You know what I mean? So I think it was a positive press conference. We know that this is the only competition that we are left in. They asked about, like, yeah, obviously this is so important for you because you out of Europe. And he said, yeah, we analyzed it, but this is the big one. And I believe that, in my honest opinion, I think that Liverpool wants to do a 4P, right? But I think they're going for the league and Europa, so, barring that, we are quite solid against Liverpool at Old Trafford. But if it would Anfield, I'd be worried. But I feel a little bit of confidence here. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think it's a cup game. It's a derby. Technically, it's a
It's
derby.
a cup game, yeah. It's a derby.
So I remember playing them under Solskjaer and Greenwood, and I think Fernandez, we knocked him out with the goals. I think anything's possible. We've had a week off as well, so they played last night. We've had a full week off.
Yeah.
So
But
that
the only
should help.
thing, I did a video this morning, and you know what scares me? They are so bloody good, even with the youth, with the kids, right? But if you look at why, I always ask the question why. These players have been, embedded into Klopp's system for 9 years. It goes down to all the under 18s and up. Like, they're all playing the same style of football, right? So if you would think that you have injuries, they will fall off the cliff. But the youngsters that stepped in, they've been. I never heard of them, but they've been amazing, right? They went toe to toe with City and got a draw. So
yeah, but he has been there 9 years. It was like when Alex Ferguson was there.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he has been there 9 years. So I wouldn't expect anything less from a coach that had been there 9 years, to be honest.
You know what I hate about him, Bilal, to be honest? You know what I hate about it? I'm sorry to say. When I look at Liverpool, right? The game, the play, the swagger of Klopp, that reminds me of Sir Alex days, right? When we used to play. We used to come back, Klopp time, Fergie time, you know what I mean? We used to always bully people, right? And this is what they are right now. So this reminds me of us 10 years ago.
He's a very good coach. He is a very good coach. He's an exceptional coach. I know he's a Liverpool manager, but he is exceptional. I have a lot of Liverpool friends, and when
My
I see
brother
them,
is a scouser.
yeah, so they used to say to me, "Oh, Fergie flukes it. Fergie's got a lot of luck." And I said, "Look, do you remember when he used to say that to me? But this time I won't say that with Klopp because he is very, very good. Him with more resource at a bigger team, with a team with more resource, I think he would be sensational.
Yeah.
He is very, very good. I would not be surprised if he's the next Germany manager, Man City manager, Real Madrid manager. The guy's exceptional.
Question:
Um,
Would you be surprised if I said that Lady Fortuna has been on Klopp's side this season? I can count how many games they came back from a 1-0 to win 2-1. I think there's 5 games that they've done that, and it's been always at the dying last kick of the game, right? So this
but
is what reminds me of what we used to.
luck favors the brave, right?
Yeah, true.
So they create the look. The way they play, they're very very good. But I think it'll be a big test for Ten Hag based on I think from if I'm not mistaken, Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and Hoyland are back for this Sunday from based on the
Yeah,
press
yeah, yeah,
conference.
yeah. It didn't
So that
speak much about. Yeah, sorry if I interrupt you there. Like, I
yeah,
just came fresh from that press conference. He didn't speak much about Maguire, to be honest, but he mentioned 3 key players that are available, and that has been training, and that is Mason Mount, unbelievably, right? So Mason Mount will most likely be available for selection. Aaron Wan-Bissaka will step in to the back line as well, and as you said, Hoyland. The
so
question is, the question is, I know that Hoyland has been on a scoring streak, but he's been out for 3 weeks, right? Will he come in rusty, or do you think he will just gel straight away?
I think Wan-Bissaka will go to right back. Dallo will go
Me,
to left back. I
ah,
think
really?
I think Evans is out if I'm not mistaken, and I think
Is it?
Varane, Maguire might go centre back or Lindelof. I think
Or Kwambala?
yeah, absolutely. I can't see Hoyland starting just because of the physicality of the game. I think they'll ease him back in because what they won't want to do with him is injure him again, and he's out
No,
for another
true,
four
true,
weeks.
true, true.
Um,
Do you
but
think he will start off the bench?
yeah, I think so. I think they'll go
There
with
was
Payson
there was
behind him.
nothing to mention. Sorry, again, there was nothing to mention about John Evans being out. So in my
Yeah, that
lineup, I gone with the Varane and Evans, and the simple reason is now that's been the most solid defensive partnership, like in centre back, 100%. But I
yeah.
would definitely go with what you said there, but I would go with the Wan-Bissaka on the left for some reason because Dallo has kind of claimed that right back position, made it his own, and why would you change all of a sudden, right?
It's just because I can't see Lindelof going against Mo Salah, to be
I
honest.
can't see Lindelof in this
Yeah,
team whatsoever.
I know, but I can't. I think he'll really struggle. And the thing with Ten Hag is where kind of Solskjaer was a bit better. I felt Solskjaer used to play 2 systems. He used to play 3 at the back and he used to play 4 at the back, right? I think Ten
Yeah.
Hag's a flat 4, and with that, I think you cannot put Lindelof against Salah. Salah will end his
Oh,
career.
he will destroy him, and
He will
that's so
destroy him.
important. Aaron Wan-Bissaka on Salah, yeah, that's what I want to see.
Whilst we're on the injury point, I think this morning when I was researching, and I think an article came out, we're up to 50 injuries this season.
Yeah, 44-50, yes, true.
Yeah, what is and there's the Malassia's been out. A lot of players have been out, and I remember previously under Solskjaer, players used to go and do their own rehab in the US in Dubai. They wouldn't trust the clubs, which is
No,
quite weird, really, hearing that at the time.
it's
Why do you think, Mick? We're getting so many injuries, and why do you think they keep happening?
it's a culmination of many things, to be honest. You got to step first and foremost. I think we have a very incompetent medical department or scientific department that is kind of to blame and not to be trusted. They've been all fired, and I got to take back to last season. It's injuries come in retrospective of fatigue of playing a lot of games, and last season we were dropping like flies, honestly, because we were playing a World Cup in the middle of winter, right? And then we sort of played 3 games a week, and on top of that they added on the extra time, right? Unpredictable. You're playing extra 10 minutes, 8 minutes without even knowing, and that is that is adds on because you need to have rest, recover. Anyone that's going to the gym and lifting heavy, You can't go lifting heavy like 3 times a week. You need the recovery, otherwise you get muscle injuries. And most of these injuries, my friend, has been muscle injuries, muscle fatigue. um, you can blame it on the medical department that has been greenlighting or not really been paying attention, right? But it's also down to the player how you are taking care of yourself, because there's only certain things that a medical department and physios can do for you. The rest is up to you, how you eat, how you recover, and if you're following the protocol.
If you remember in January, Mick, they released pictures of I think it was Malasia and Mount in
Yeah.
training, and we're
Yeah.
in mid-March and they're still not back. And if you look at Ten Hag's press conference, I think last week or the week before, he said, I was told they'll be ready in Jan, hence why they let Regulon go back.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, they were banking on that.
so it's a bit crazy. They're like,
It's a bit crazy. I mean,
we're
you
going to
know me.
Dubai.
I call a spade a spade, and the thing is, what I heard on the market as well is that you now expecting Ten Hag to finish the race on on broken spare parts, right? Basically, they screwed him over. They loaned out a lot. I think it was 12, 12 youngsters, right, from the academy, banking on that Shaw will be back. Shaw came back. Martinez came back, but they're all gone, right? And that, okay, Martinez was something that happened on the pitch. There's nothing you can do about it. Mason Mount and Malasia, what I heard, because I spoke to Malasia's legal advisor, he had to do a sort of surgery again. It was failed healing. So he came back to early on training. Something happened again, and he's out for the rest of the season. And this is one of those, like, this is one of the knee injuries. You can go back to look at Arsenal situation with Urin Timber. Same thing. Injured in preseason, missed out for the whole season for knee. But again, you got to look at your own physios. And if you don't trust them, go away, as what you say. Go to Dubai, go to somewhere else and get your recovery, like Zlatan used to do, What's your thoughts?
I think there's some serious issues because and firstly they took the head of medical or the doctor from Arsenal in the summer.
Voodoo. Yeah.
From what I read, I'm sure you come across this as well, that
Actually,
Ineos were quite happy with him of having an overhaul. But I think serious questions need to be asked because our injuries are a joke. I know there's one thing having muscle injuries, but recurring injuries constantly is not a good look. I think
And
the whole department needs looking at.
honest to God, like the ownership prior to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they were looking to save money anyway. They didn't want to spend any money, so they didn't get the best in class people. They got just the whatever, just fill paper of the cracks, right? Just to have a medical department. That's my opinion, though, and this is what I've been told as well. There's nothing wrong with Carrington itself. It's a very good facility. It just needs a little bit of an upgrade with the latest.
But Carrington not being a modern or a new facility shouldn't impact
nothing
somebody.
to do with it, no. But it's definitely the massages, the therapist, and giving the false assessment to green light too early. But you also have to look at the players, because players do want to play. They're eager to get back on the pitch. So you also have to ask the player, right? If you're not 100% ready, I know you can lie to say, I want to play because I've been waiting, 3 months to play and I feel ready, but I'm not really 100% ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Shaw strikes me as a player that won't play through injury that often because he's injured every season. He's been here over 10 years, and we're
No,
still
he
trying to
will be
figure out
gone
if
in
he's
the
any good.
summer. That's what I believe, though. He's too much. It's too much of a liability. It's not sustainable, right? If I was Brailsford, which I think that Brailsford are doing, is looking at every single staff member and they're assessing the performance management. And if he sort of clocks like how many sick leaves do you have and how many are you available and what is your salary, and he's going to say this is not sustainable, you're out of the door, right? You can't be injured 50%. Mason Mount, they're protecting, of course, he's a new signing. But what happened to Mason Mount? Like, was it a muscle injury? I read it was a calf injury, and then it was a muscle strain, hamstring. But I was thinking to myself, Bilal, this is, he's played 7 games for United, and this is a muscle. It's not a knee. It's not an ACL. So what the
Well,
hell? Right?
Malasia's out for the whole season, more or less.
I know, because it's knee. But when you look at muscle injury, like Mason Mount, that shouldn't be 4 months out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, let's hope they kind of get to the bottom of this, and next season we have an improvement. What are your thoughts around? Then I'll give my view on what I digged out on this. But the stadium plans and what they're proposing.
Well, I have had my finger on the pulse on this. And of course, I think the media has been fueling this a lot, right? They reported that they're seeking tax money, the government to fund for the stadium. But it's not about the stadium. It's about the development around the greater Manchester area. There's a lot of development that needs to improve. And basically, there will be a lot of jobs being created. Now, of course, a lot of people talking and say, oh, they're going to knock down Old Trafford because Ratcliffe or Ineos, they own the PDL 193, which is the fracking rights, and there's a lot of natural liquid gas underneath. It's a lot of speculations, but at the end of the day, Glazers did something similar with Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? When they bought it. They basically they threatened to move. So Tampa Council paid for the stadium. So that is now worth 1 billion in assets. So does it say that he doesn't have money to invest? I don't think he can invest his own money. And why would he invest in his own money? As what we discussed in this podcast before, turn debt to equity. He's pumping in 300 million to his own, according to his manifesto, But I think it's a clever move to involve, to get the council to pay for it, make it a tourist attraction, create jobs. And why wouldn't they invest in that? But I think that a lot of fans are turning out, well, he doesn't have money. And I think they're going to name it you can, there's so many ways. If you look at Jean-Claude Blanc, what he did with Juventus, he did the same thing, right? He built the latest stadium for minimum of budget by seeking sponsorships. So there's nothing out of the ordinary here. I think they're doing clever business here. What's your thoughts?
So I know a bit about this now because we're based in Manchester. In our day jobs, we do a lot of work with the councils and stuff, right? So this is what's right. So to give you a bit of context, every stadium that's been built in London, the surrounding areas, whether the train station, the tram stops, government, these kind of have been built by the government, right?
By the government.
Okay. Yeah, because of reasons of getting people there, jobs, whatever. If you look at Ratcliffe's interview with the BBC, and if anybody has not listened to, I recommend go and listen to Talk of the Devils with Andy Burnham, who is the Manchester mayor. Even though he's an Everton fan, he's really on the ball. He breaks it down really, really well on what they're actually proposing. So, for example, anyone that's been to Old Trafford, behind the Stratford end, there's a train station that doesn't get used.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, true.
There's a train line for freight, which at the moment causes a lot of problems for freight coming into Manchester.
That's been a big problem for years.
Big problem,
that's been a problem why they couldn't have extended because of that.
Right. So what United are saying is we'll build the stadium and we'll build on our 50, 60 acres of land, whether we move the stadium or we redevelop the stadium, right?
They own the land bank.
Yeah. It's about 60 acres they own around there, I'm pretty sure, because they own the most car parking space compared to any other ground in the country.
Yeah.
Right. But what United are saying is, okay, why don't we make this even bigger, right? Because on the side of Old Trafford, you've got Media City, you've got other derelict land or space that can be used. So United are saying, okay, we'll build a £2 billion stadium, right? No problem. How we finance it, whatever, we'll build it. And Andy Burnham said that the financing of the stadium will come down to Manchester United.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What United are now saying is, why doesn't the government improve transport links to the stadium and past the stadium with trams and trains? Number one. which will come down to the government, nothing to do with United. Number two is, why don't we together with all the other people that are on this committee look at creating more jobs,
Yeah.
retail space,
Yep.
living space, which
Yes.
would be on the government land,
Hmm.
funded by the government, but an overall bigger project which will
Yep.
come up with a leveling up of Manchester.
That's what I believe
That's
too. I mean, that's what I heard too. Someone, it is a catch-22 situation that, you know, Manchester United PLC would absolutely build the stadium for their own by
yeah,
finding, sponsorship. It might be called, I don't know, Mercedes Stadium or whatever. But what you said, that is absolutely creating jobs and developing that area, which is most important, which
exactly.
which includes the transportation, because there would be thousands of millions of tourists coming.
Just on housing, so in that area, so the people or the listening or what that don't know this, there's locals that live further down. How can they benefit from this? How
Yeah,
can more
everyone would
jobs
benefit.
be right? So that part doesn't come under Manchester United, because United can put up a £2 billion stadium tomorrow, no problem. But what they're saying is, where you have to understand is, and Andy Burnham has confirmed this in Talk of the Devils, they
Hmm.
want to make it even bigger.
Bigger.
The whole
That's why they say
project needs to be bigger.
the
So
biggest, the Wembley of the North kind of thing.
yeah, the Wembley of the North, whatever you want to call it, right? But what they're saying is, where there's government land and there's government where they can help. For example, they can add the train station to the back of the stadium. They can expand the freight line so more freight can get into Manchester. They can take the tram to Old Trafford. They can create more housing, more jobs. They're saying to the government, why don't you get involved? We'll do our part, you do
Mm,
your part. And in
true.
the BBC interview, he if you watch that on iPlayer, or I don't know how you'd watch this internationally, Ratcliffe has clearly stated he doesn't expect the government to finance any of the stadium, but the extended parts
But
he
it's
does,
surrounded it.
because they have done this at Tottenham already, and they've done
Well,
this at West Ham.
well, that's exactly what they've done. So it's basically logistics side of it, right? That's what it is. And I paid attention to that as well. It's nothing to seek about money for building the stadium. It's the overall surroundings, which is, I scratch my back and I scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's a catch-22 situation, isn't it? Right? So it works in everyone's favor. It's good for
And
the community. It creates jobs, creates housing. They're probably going to build a shopping mall, XYZ, a new hotel.
if you look
It's going
at
to be
Mick,
like
if you look
a,
at the committee that he's put together, he's put Seb Coe on there, right?
yeah,
Who's got
100%.
serious political weight and has built something at a very large scale.
Gary
He's
Neville.
put he's put the Peel Group on there. So anybody that doesn't know, the Peel Group own Media City, Manchester Airport, and
Mm.
they used to own the Trafford Centre, so they are very familiar with that whole area. He's got Andy Burnham on there. He's got Trafford Council on there, and now Salford Council are also joining this committee. And the interesting thing was, in that podcast when I listened to it, they were saying that they expect to get this moving really quickly. It wouldn't be years. They want to move very quickly on
Mm,
this.
mm.
And I think it's quite clever for them to say to the, because I was at Anfield a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking at the redevelopment around Anfield. So I walked a full round the stadium, and what I understand what Ratcliffe's actually saying, because you can do what they've done at Anfield, which is literally just expand the
Or
stadium.
around Etihad. Just walk around Etihad and you will see a total
Yeah,
different
but
development.
Etihad's
Oh.
still a bigger development. With Anfield, they've only extended 2 stands, and that's it. There's nothing else that's
Mm.
happened around there. He's saying we can make this much bigger. So that's why I think people were misreporting this intentionally. He's not asked for government money, and I think
No, no,
what
no.
they were.
That's, yeah, but that's what I was started to say. I was one of them that misinterpreted and fire shot, because it's all about the Glazers, right? And it rings an alarm bell, because Glazers did the same thing with Tampa Council, right? They got Tampa to build the stadium for them, and they own the land bank. So, but it's not the same, right? This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe doing. This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe being smart, because let's face it, you have Manchester City and you have Manchester United. Who's got the biggest fan base in the world, right? Who's attracting most tourists to come to Manchester? It works in favor of the Manchester Council. Like, you want to redevelop your city, you want to make it modern.
So
And
yeah,
Manchester
and
United attracts a lot of tourists, right?
what he was also saying was there might be a way to also connect the Etihad campus, I'll call it the whole campus, to the Old Trafford campus as well. And they were saying that it's a much wider project than just Old Trafford football ground because of just the sheer scale of it. And what they want to do is, and what they've been tasked to do, is to create the number one destination in Europe for football and entertainment. Because otherwise, there's no point doing it. So you can see that, look, they've only been here like 12 weeks, and you can see they're making some serious moves now.
They're making some strides.
Some people will say that they want them to make a new stadium overnight and just announce it. I think it's not that easy because so many stakeholders are involved, planning X, Y, Z.
But I also heard that, since Old Trafford wasn't nominated in the Euros to be part of one of the stadiums, there was a big alarm bell. So we need to do something. I don't know. People
according to Andy
getting...
Burnham, the reason it wasn't, according to Andy Burnham, the reason it was not mentioned for the Euros was that United have already actually done a lot of work on a rebuild or a reconstruction of the old ground, and they want to put this into action. So when that tournament is happening, it'll already be in rebuilds or reconstruction stage.
So what's going to happen with Old Trafford? Are they going to knock it down?
I think so.
Wow.
I think they'll knock it down, and they'll build a smaller stadium on there.
Yeah.
Because you still, even if we developed it, you still, foundation infrastructure wise, it's still 100-year-old stadium.
You can't do. I mean, that's what I've been saying. Like, it's overdue, right? It's been left to rust, and you can be sentimental. I would love to see development, but they have hired professional surveys to actually do assessment, and they say you can't. First and foremost, the ground, it's not stable where it stands, and it can collapse anytime. If you add more weight to it, it will absolutely be
But Mick, what the interesting part is, if they redevelop it for $1 billion, let's say that increases revenue. I'm making these numbers up just so people understand. If they redevelop Old Trafford, it'll increase revenue by, let's say, 50 million as an example, right? But if they spend $2 billion and build a new stadium with a fan park and everything, it could increase revenue by 150 million.
Yes.
So
and why would you want that? Like, football has changed.
And because a lot of people
if you're turning a new page, you're turning a new page, a totally new page with a new stadium, the latest and greatest. If you've been to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you go like, wow, that is the shit, You could rebuild Old Trafford, but the still problem lies the same, the railway. That is the Achilles heel. So that's why you have to move it to build a bigger stadium.
Yeah, and also what you have to remember is when people are saying, well, if they go to 90,000, it's only an increase of like 25. But no, it's not an increase of 25 because capacity-wise, yes, but it's you're underestimating the increase in hospitality of bars, extra suites, extra, the Sir Alex Ferguson suite, all that, which is not being equated for, which will increase revenue. But 100%. What he did say in the BBC interview was, if you look around Old Trafford, there's not much going on. For the space, United have that much car park. Liverpool don't have any car park.
The massive dead industry space. I mean, massive dead industry space, massive dead land banks that could be developed. And that's what they want to do, yeah.
For me, because they've got Seb Coe on this, who built the Olympic Park, and he's got serious political weight. Andy Burnham's on there. Anyone with any weight is on. To me, that tells me they're trying to build a new stadium and they want to get it through quickly. Hence why they have these decision makers on the committee, because they want to get through the bureaucracy a lot quicker.
If you remember the interview that Ratcliffe had with BBC, that was his first priority. He said about Carrington, it's not a priority, it's to build a stadium. He said Carrington is good enough. It's a modern, it just needs a little bit of a facelift with the latest equipment. The training ground is awesome. It's just that medical staff needs to be replaced. You need to invest in more modern equipment, scientific equipment, X, Y, Z. The rest is good, right?
Absolutely.
That's what he said.
Absolutely. So let's hope that kind of, we start getting some more news on that. I think on that talk of the Devils, it said by next season, start next season, we'll have some clarification on there. Talking of next season, Mick.
Yep.
We're coming up to the international break after this weekend.
Thank God. We need a breather.
Right, yeah. Yes. What, Ten Hag, he has one season left at United after this year.
Yep.
And obviously you come into a summer where they're going to want to spend, the manager's going to want to have an input.
They're going to spend big.
Transfers,
Big.
Do you see Ten Hag being here, number one, next year? Number two, do you think if he loses on the weekend, they will have to make a decision on this?
They will not
And
make a
kind of,
decision.
what are your thoughts?
First and foremost, they will not make a decision either if its results go not his way. The reason per se is it's not their priority. I did a report about this last week, and everyone caught up today what Ornstein was saying as well. They haven't come near to discuss his the manager. The main priority focus is to get the right people above the manager first in place, and then assess the manager. And they feel that he's got 1 year left on his contract, and I think it's been media-driven agenda, making up stories. We know who they are. Rob Dawson. We know that Lockhurst has been driving this. They've been once been banned from the press conferences. They've been fueling it. If media decided that they want to sort of sack the manager, they will double down on it. In reality, if you have 1 year left on his contract, and you just have to go back to what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said in the interview, he said that it's not been the coach's fault, right? United had like top pedigree coaches, but they haven't had the right infrastructure, right? So I
But Mick,
believe that
he's
with
not. Sorry, go.
let me right. I believe, and I will tell you why. People have been saying there's no style of play. Well, first and foremost, you can walk around and say, well, if you had a plan B, I know you're not making an excuse of injuries, but all of a sudden, if you keep players that you plan for to play your style of play, it's dropping off, and the remainings that you have cannot play the style of play, you have to revert back to plan B and play what they know best is counter-attacking football, right? And that has been the reason. And I don't think that Ineos and Brailsford are mugs. They understand. They see everything. They walk into a room and within 5 minutes they can scan everything that's gone wrong at United, the club. So the rumors of De Zerbi and all that, that is not an improvement on Ten Hag. I believe if you give the man the right, first and foremost, get rid of the players that don't belong there anymore. Clear the deadwood. Start fresh recruiting players under the style that they want to play. And if you can't do it within 1 year, then it's not going to cost them anything. It's just see you later. Phase out your contract, and then we go for the best in class. Why I'm saying so? Because there's no manager available on the market at the moment that is best in class, other than Zinedine Zidane, but perhaps. But Zidane doesn't really play youth, so it doesn't really make sense. The only one, you will hate me for it, that would be there's two managers in the Premier League, and there's Klopp and there's Pep Guardiola. And Klopp is pretty much the closest thing what we play. But he's leaving, he's probably going to take a sabbatical. So would it be taboo maybe within 1 year to say, Klopp, would you come to United? Do you think he will do it? I don't think so. But to go back to your original question, I don't think he's going to get sacked.
I think he's not helping himself, number one. I think another trigger will be the amount of managers that are available this year that might be willing to adapt how they, under this new regime and under this new structure, they might be willing to work. And I think a manager that's going under everyone's radar a little bit, who's not being mentioned for any job, is Unai Emery, who I think is a top manager.
Yep.
Who will just work with a system where he's given players, he has a say-so, but he's not bothered about who he has and not, and he improves players. I think where Ten Hag, I'm with you, I'd rather not get Ten Hag sacked, I'd rather keep him, but where he's not helping himself is you're constantly being against Everton. What was it, 23, 24, 33? I can't even remember how many shots they've had now, right? He's really struggling, Mick. He's really struggling to give him any conviction to keep him. And
I agree, and it's a never-ending debate. But he's only played 3 games this season with his style of play, and his style of play is to play a high line. Having 6 players pressing on front, you don't have anyone that has legs to can press anymore, right? You don't. So what you do, he's gone to a man marking situation. He goes man by man, and reverts back to having that big gap or hole in the middle of the park. But the players that are available, they're not used to playing that style of football, and these are the players that need to go. That's the thing, right? So his style of play is more of high press, win the ball high up the pitch. Having like fast fullbacks or a Varane or or somebody fast, and having like Onana as a sweeper keeper, the last man standing, like that is the whole idea. But that's went out of the window. But I think we've been blinded a little bit, but we are sitting with a chance to reach fifth or fifth or fourth, right? We lost 2 games this season, City and Fulham. Fulham, I had very hard to swallow, but it's not been the football that we want to see. It's been pretty much survival, grinding out results, and you're not doing your favors. But I think that he just wants to see this out. And I think he had conversations with Ineos, and they're backing him to say, hold tight, do as best you can, get yourself into Europa League or Champions League. It's very important because it's revenues. And then we will back you in the summer. You will have no veto whatsoever. You will have a sporting director and a recruitment. You are part of the team, and together we will decide the targets. Are you okay with that? He will go, okay. He's a winner, right? If you look at Ajax at the moment, you watch Ajax yesterday.
I did, yeah.
Totally crumbled. Since Ten Hag left Ajax and Overmars and all that structure, it's been...
He fits Ineos the best if you just look at his CV and his way. What doesn't help him is he's not helping himself.
He's not
right?
helping us.
Now, whether Ineos think, and the other thing is whether he's willing to take a role where he hasn't got as much involvement in transfers, right? That's a key part. Whether Ineos will look at this and think, right, whether they go with Unai Emery, Potter, De Zerbi, whoever, right? Or whether they go, you know what, you'll know, because they're going to have to either give him a new contract or remove him, because they're not going to go into the summer and say, let's spend 200 million for you to have players, and then 4 months down the line you'll start getting talk of United haven't given him a new extended him. United, he's losing games. Oh my God, what a bad start. They need to start with the manager and say he's our man or not.
But the thing is,
or you'll end up with the Thomas Tuchel situation.
No, I think that they have had conversation with you. We will not extend your contract, but we will give you the backing. You will have that infrastructure. Prove to us with the 1 year what you can do. And if you do well, we give you another contract. And that's fair, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, but if he loses 4 or 5 games at the start of the season into November, he's under serious pressure. Then you're going to get the talk of, oh, are they extending you? It's extra noise you don't need.
Yeah, but then I go back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer interview, who actually exposed how it's been run. He spoke the truth. Ole is a he doesn't call people up, but you can read between the lines how he's operating, right? So he hasn't had much support from people above. I mean, talking about John Murtaugh, he's been sitting on his ass. That summer when we recruited Anthony, I personally know Anthony's agent, and they basically pulled his pants down because he went on a vacation in the middle of a summer transfer window, came back 2 weeks left and panicked, right? You can't do that. And now you're seeing he's running like an errand boy because they sent him out. John, we want you to go out to work, establish the relationship, give the target list who's for sale for a club, and ask them, who do you have for sale? And that's what he's doing right now. But I've been told he's not going to have a job.
This conversation regarding Ten Hag's future can go on forever, I suppose.
Yeah,
I guess
I
we'll know more on Sunday. Just talking on Sunday, just lastly then, mate, what are your thoughts? Well, how do you see it panning out on Sunday? Who wins, who loses?
I said it before, and I'm going to be consistent. I'm not afraid because Liverpool, if it was an Anfield, 100%, I would be like, oh, yeah, this is going to be a tough one. But we have a general good record when we meet Liverpool at Old Trafford and the crowd. And barring that Højlund is back, we're getting more balance. I think it's going to be a 2-1 United. I even predicted a 3-2. It might be so that it goes to extra time and we get a final kick by Scott McTominay or header by Casemiro, right, on a set piece. But it's definitely going to be a thriller. I don't think it's going to be a trashing and bashing, what a lot of people say. If it was at Anfield, I would say, I'd be worried. But I feel that Klopp is more looking to safeguard the Prem and the Europa League, and the FA Cup is just a bonus, right? I think that he will start Van Dijk. He was rested. I think McAllister will be back. I think he will go his strongest team. But yeah, as long as we play our game and what Ten Hag said, we're aware how they play, because Liverpool is so good at setting up traps. Like we've done it before, right? We've done it before. So
Absolutely.
I think 2-1 United, maybe a 1-1 extra time penalty, but I said it like a 3-2 United.
I think they need to put on a display.
I think so.
I think they need to put on a display. They're at home. They need to take the game to them and really not just kind of scrape by. But Mick, if anyone wants to get in touch, follow your movement, how can they do that?
Before I say that, I would just say one thing regarding that. I think this is a big one. This is the season decider how things will turn around. I believe that the senior players needs to turn up and show leadership on that pitch, right? I think so.
We play them again in 2 weeks, so
I know, and then they can go on a break. I mean, I'm talking about Rashford. I'm talking about Bruno. It's so important that those senior players have a good game, mentally they're ready.
You need temperament, and you need and I don't see
attitude.
them having that. Yeah,
this is Liverpool show. You just kick them in the nuts.
Yeah, but I don't think they've got. I think with Rashford,
no,
I think a lot of fans have had enough of him.
Bilal, you can find me on mostly on my YouTube channel, MUFC Realist TV. Not so big on socials. You can see me on Twitter, Mick Ruby. Just type in Mick Ruby, MUFC Realist TV. I started to use TikTok. I'm still learning. Instagram. I just don't have time. I don't know how people have time doing, all these socials.
You need to hire more people, Mick.
Hire more people to handle my socials. Yeah. I'm not as rich as you.
No,
but you can find me there. Go check it out, guys.
I'll put it in the description. It's been a pleasure. Let's hope we have a good one on the weekend, and we'll be back next week. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.